everything. And I'm the opposite. Like we got a car recently and I would come home and he would just like kept like having those car videos playing with like cars on different terrain and stuff. And it was just so boring. I could weep. And he was always just like, what do you think of this? You know, like I know nothing. He could bring home like a Ford Dart and I'd be like, oh, so I guess it comes from money. You know, like I don't give a shit. I just was like, how about the kind of car where you can put your cell phone and it just charges it? You know, like you could just balance it there. He's like, I can't buy an SUV based on whether it can charge my cell phone in a certain way. And I was like, that's all I cared about. But he over researches everything. So he dealt with his pandemic fear by just watching a lot of like diaper hacks and like, you know, Jackson's tummy time tips, like baby Jackson's tummy time. That's what he did. I would get into bed and not me, my fireman husband would lay there in his uniform watching like some, like one of those, you know what I mean? Those YouTube twats that are like, so anyway, with my first kid, Jackson, we were able to do sleep sacks and Truman didn't take as well to it. Runner was really amazing with sleep sacks. So every baby's different. And I'm like, please stop.
Listen, I got to defend him. Here's the thing that people don't understand. So I'm watching a friend of mine go through this right now. He's having his first kid. Mm-hmm. Guys don't know anything about anything. Like we all went somewhere for a weekend and we were all standing in the kitchen and I like, you know, I got real confident and I was like, all right, I'm going to ask some questions here. Like I'm going to get a little bit of education. And as soon as I start asking questions, like my wife is like staring across the kitchen at me, like ready to murder me. And I was just like, so like, you know, like that cord, what's up with the cord thing? Like, you know, they like cut it and she, you know, they're like looking at me like, what do you mean? And by the way, the guy who's having the kid is getting the education at the same time. Like he doesn't know any of this. And so it's like, I don't think people understand, like you're going from zero to having to be educated. It's not like, oh, I kind of sort of know some of this stuff. And like, now I just got to learn the details. It's like, I've never even heard of that topic before. Now let me go get educated and be ready for this human to like be under my control.
That is true. And guys have no idea. They have some strange impulses. He was like, can I put the baby in a swing at the park? I'm like, no, she's 4 months old. You can't just put her on a swing. She doesn't have, like, were you just going to do that? Were you just going to drop a 4-month-old on a swing and like see what happened? But all that being said, I will say I am kind of like worthless too. I didn't read any books. You know, I just wanted to watch serial killer documentaries when I was pregnant. So we had a baby nurse and she told me everything, you know, I mean, she just explained everything. And I was sitting on her bed at one point after we had the baby and it was like a perfectly made bed because she just does everything in that perfect little baby nurse way. Like, I'm like, I'll never be able to replicate this when this woman is gone. And all of a sudden she looked at me and she was like, oh my God, you're bleeding. And I was like, I've gone through COVID. I've gone through everything. What the fuck now? And I looked down and I realized that I had smeared my protein bar all over the bed of this lovely woman who's like helping me care for my newborn baby. And there was just like fudge and like cranberry from a protein bar. And I was like, I am a pig. How can I keep a human alive? So that was kind of my experience. I'm not like a normal mother, you know, and I could tell that.
But if you start every sentence with as a mother.
Yeah. And then you just strip protein bar all over the baby nurse's bed.
What's the craziest thing you've blamed on being a mother? Like, what's the thing that you've like, just like, no worries, I'm a mother.
I mean, anything. I'll have like a smear of Jaeger on my cheek. And I'm like, I'm sorry, mom. You know how like all those moms, they always have like Instagram headings, like boxed wine is my juice box or whatever, you know? So I kind of try to get on that, like, I'll check my wine with my whining or whatever. And so I usually try to do that, but with like, you know, Jaeger or harder liquor, you know? I'm like 10 shots of whiskey.
Paulina's been showing me these TikToks. There's like a mom TikTok thing. And they're all different moms all over the country. And they like basically create content for each other on TikTok where their kids are. And I'm sure the kids aren't excited that their moms are on the same platform or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
But they're just like, you know, when the baby goes to bed and literally every video is the same. They're just chugging liquor. And I'm like, okay. And so hearing you talk about Jaeger, I'm like, there is a reoccurring theme here.
Yeah, but with them, it's usually just like a glass of rosé or something. Somehow it feels acceptable. But my husband doesn't drink anymore, so I'm not as worthless as I used to be. He quit drinking a couple years ago. So now it's more It's more like just falling asleep, eating, just doing a lot of feeding in bed and passing out. That's how I numb myself.
What's been the biggest surprise since you had a kid?
Honestly, I thought I had a lot of fear about it because I was like, what if I don't connect to her? Especially because I'm an oversharer. Like I'll tell anybody anything. I hang out for like 5 minutes and I'm just like, so I still have some anger at my dad, but I'm feeling better about it, So I was like, what if I don't connect to her? Because I'll tell people. I was like, I'll be that woman at a barbecue. Like, isn't it weird that I don't love her? Like I'll have one Corona and just start telling people. And I'm like, that'll be worse than not loving her. I won't be able to not tell people and it won't be cool. So thank God I think I had so much anxiety about it and like fear and focused on all the potential catastrophic things happening on top of what was happening, in the world, that I didn't consider all the good and fun parts. So it was like pleasantly surprising, and I was like, I loved her right away, which makes me a hero, I think, right? Sorry, my husband just walked in and out of the room. So obviously,
probably because he heard you talking about the fact that you were worried about not loving your daughter.
Well, I was like, it is a thing you hear about that women don't connect. That happens. It doesn't mean they don't eventually love. In the beginning, sometimes women have postpartum or they have some issue and they don't like bond as early. A lot of women will say that they don't bond right away or something. And then they slowly do. Usually I don't know anybody that still doesn't love their kids, but
the 15-year-old, that's the one. we just don't really hit it off.
I mean, sometimes there is a hole in the team. You'll see 3 kids and you're like, they definitely love that one the most, not the other one. So, but luckily we only have 1 kid and loved her right away. I think because I had so much nerves about it that I was just so pleasantly surprised. And she's very cute. So I'm pretty into it. It's fun. It's like a movie. Like she entertains us. She does silly little things all the time. She's very cute.
Yeah. I feel like you guys seem to have like done pretty well with this, like coronavirus, protest, riots, baby, like still alive. You have a car, it charges your phone. Like there's progress going on in your house.
He's an amazing dad, like does everything.
Does he have the front backpack?
Yes. He has the carrier thing. Nice. He's got all of that. And he's obsessed, like jumps up every time she cries. When I was pregnant, he was like somewhat worthless. Like we got on, when I was in Florida, he was with me. And then we went back to the airport after. We had to fly. And it was like, May 15th, whenever the Golden State Warriors got it. So, and then he boarded the plane without me. I went to get a water. I was 7 months fucking pregnant. He boards the plane without me. And firemen are
maybe he thought you were on the plane.
No, he thought I went to get a water and I was taking too long. And I got on the plane. I'm like, what the fuck? And he was like, I just thought I'd like get situated. I'm like, there's nobody even on this plane. There was like a third of the people were even on the plane. You thought you'd get yourself situated? I was like, what in the fuck were you thinking? But he's firemen, because they're first responders and maybe other first responders too. They're like underreactors in those situations. It's like having an argument with like the 911 operator. Whenever you hear those tapes and you're like, that poor woman, like, won't she at least put some warmth in her voice? Like, I know she can't say certain stuff, but just be like, we'll be right there. They're always like, all right, ma'am. Okay. That's what it's like with him. I'm like, where the fuck were you? He's like, just thought I'd get situated. I'm like, do you not understand how insanely awful that is? He's like, guess I just figured you'd be on your way. And I'm like, no. So he was that.
He may have just been checking the plane for COVID, making sure that he got it off before you got there.
I mean, it was astonishing. But then I think, you know what? But the baby, I mean, also maybe it's something about a girl. I don't know. I mean, he'll do everything for her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.